I have to be honest with you guys, although this is not my standard introduction. This is the first of my new line of Starship stats reviews, as recent changes have resulted in a, well, shake-up of Starship build within Star Trek Online, and a shake-up in the way that you can approach it. I feel it is necessary to look back over those ships I've seen in the past, even the ones I haven't. This is the first of the new series though. So, with that being said, first of all, warning, this is a Starship stats review where the primary subject of the video is acquired through in-game gambling mechanics. For this very reason, there is not a 100% certainty that should you partake in said gambling, that you will acquire this ship. In fact, the chances are very low, and I feel it necessary to advise you that if you feel you have any difficulties around gambling, to stop this video and to seek assistance with that first. However, greetings and welcome to Shadowstar. Welcome members of the Federation, the Klingon Defense Force, the Romulan Republic, and yes, our guests from the Dominion, to this Star Trek Online Starship Stats Review, and welcome aboard my Protostar class. That, well, wasn't acquired through gambling mechanics, but instead with the assistance of a very generous supporter. My strongest advice if you wish to get this ship, and yes, I know this ship is targeted towards children as well, Star Trek Prodigy, which the Protostar class is from, is aimed towards children and younger fans of the Star Trek base. As a result, to all of you I advise, do not partake in the gambling mechanics, but instead attempt to acquire this ship from the exchange. At least in this method, there is a 100% certainty you will acquire this ship, and you do not have to get drawn into such a negative sport such as gambling. I only say this from a clouded viewpoint because I myself am one of the individuals that gambling laws are there to protect, myself having mental health disabilities. But with that negativity aside, I can focus on simple positivity. Yes, there are some negatives to this ship, but overall, well, you'll see. These are the wonderful stats of this starship. And the Solus Lucius, the sonic light, fitting. But I have to note here that in testing, I have found that this ship does not perform as these stats might think. And hey, it was only yesterday I pulled up my original review of this, where I have noticed quite some over that there's a lot of negative thought about this, and this is why my reviews are taking the approach they have. Why I am a much longer and more detailed review. So do not expect this to be quick. Well, you can see by the length of this video. But trust me, I'll make sure you understand what this ship can do. We have a Tier 6 Federation and Federation Allied ship that has a hull modifier of 1, a shield modifier of 1.6, for 4 forward weapons, 3 aft. She has apparently a base turn rate of 9, an impulse modifier of 0.21, apparently an inertia rating of 45, a bonus power gradient of +5 to both shields and auxiliary, while also having a +10 to engines. She can equip dual cannons. She has a brilliant secondary deflector, sensor analysis, subsystem targeting, everything you'd expect from a science vessel. The proto warp capabilities, making her easily the best ship you can get If you'd like to partake in Tour of the Galaxy, molecular reconstruction due to her temporal basis, and, of course, the Starship Mastery Package for science vessels, which will give her enhanced exotic damage, shield HP, healing, shield regeneration and hardness, and for those that do have an interest in this, her Admiralty stats are Engineering 42, Science 47, Tactical 37, and the special grant is plus 35 Science when this ship is functioning alone. Final over, the make or break element of this ship, consoles and bridge officer stations. Well, I know a lot of people saw this and thought, no! After all, we are talking about a Spearhead, a tactical variant of science vessel. The Protostar Temporal Science Spearhead has 1 Commander Science with Temporal Operative Specialization, 1 Lieutenant Commander Engineering with Miracle Worker Specialization, 1 Lieutenant Commander Tactical, 1 Ensign Science, and 1 Lieutenant Universal. She's then brought to her standard capabilities with 2 tactical consoles, 4 engineering consoles, and 5 science consoles. Now, when I did my overview, there were things I discussed that I felt was wrong and right about this ship. For a start, I honestly thought it'd be a pilot ship, but I have no qualms about it being a temporal, because that just makes this ship even more of a powerhouse in its specialty. But do not underestimate its other areas. Please, hear me out, okay? Just hear me out. I was also hoping that the consoles would be more balanced. I mean, because when you're a science ship, the number of science consoles you have aren't necessarily overkill, despite the new advanced science consoles. As far as EPG builds go, things haven't really changed all that much. And that's good, because right now, as far as EPG builds go, so long as the ship is a science ship, which is basically the rule of thumb for it, you can reach immense DPS capability in that area. Now, obviously, this ship, being a Spearhead, is going to be an excellent DUSI ship, direct energy weapons science build. And as such, you can create a distinctively strong hybrid between EPG and direct energy damage. But let me not start there. I'm going to start with this ship's weakest aspect. Tactical DPS. Tactical DPS, I say, but it's not 100% true. It's got reasonable firepower when it comes to a kinetics build, but of course the lack of tactical consoles really does hamper this ship's overall firepower as far as kinetic goes. But when we speak energy, well, we get some benefits. Thanks to 4 engineering consoles, this ship can be quite powerful in an energy build, especially if you take advantage of the new advanced engineering consoles. Combine that in with certain tactical consoles that you can drag off of the colony, and the ship will have a lot of energy firepower. I haven't gone there myself, but that's because I like to play a bit of balance. I am a support player after all. However, we now have X2 upgrading, and if you upgrade this ship to X2, well, along with 2 extra trait slots, you're going to have 2 extra console slots. Utilizing these will give the ship the ability to have excessive engineering prowess, making the way I went to get energy damage quite easy and effective, and easily making sure you don't run out of much energy. Quite easily, actually. Second to that, then, you have the actual potential of having 4 tactical slots and going relatively decent with a kinetic build. However, once again, due to the bridge officers, this is going to be hampered slightly. Well, that and it's a temporal ship. You want the command if you're going to go there. Overall then, as far as tactical DPS goes with me, well, let me put it this way. When I ran this ship in action and did some testing with it, that is what I chose to push. I didn't do this ship's strengths, instead I went with this ship's weakness. And, as such, found that it's not so weak. Actually, I did a relatively mid-range. And then I realised, oops, I hadn't set up my traits properly. I completely forgot the ship I'd used beforehand, thinking I was using my recently acquired ships that have had pretty good builds on them. And no, I was actually using a ship that had been downgraded to make sure it let enemies survive longer for cinematics. And yet this ship's DPS hadn't really scratched too badly. And that's where I saw, do you know what? She's got a lot of firepower, so don't underestimate it. Her kinetic DPS score is 4 out of 10. But her energy DPS score, well, that's 8 out of 10. Don't underestimate her. That miracle worker seat even helps. Now let's go to tanking. Tanking is a decisively argued area. A lot of people will say shield tanking is null and void. Others will say, well, actually, I can prove you wrong. And you know what? I'm one of those others because I have seen it. I can't do it myself, but I have seen these shield tanks going up against enemies that are brilliant at disrupting shields, getting rid of them, and they're sitting there like, excuse me? No, thank you. Well, this ship's going to be one of them. I can see this ship easily in the future being one of those ships flying there, getting blasted by these shield drainers, and it's there like, are you supposed to be doing something to my shields? Come on. I'm sorry to say this, but with that 1.6 shield modifier, this ship is a shield tank. Now, the one hull modifier is a decisively weak spot among tanking. As such, should the shields buckle, the ship's not going to last long. It will be fragile once those shields are down. However, work on the ship right and those shields aren't going down. So as much as this ship cannot hull tank, and even with X2 upgrading and taking those engineering platform and the science consoles to really push hard into hull tanking, you're going to be sacrificing far too much, and as a result will not be a properly effective tank in anything past advanced. And when do you really need the tanks? In elite. So that's decisively a weakness in my opinion. However, with those two decisively being at opposite ends of the platform, there is one other side to tanking that is sitting more with the shields than it is with the hull. Hybrid tanking on this ship is very effective. You can easily set up a regenerative shield tank right alongside an endurance shield tank, which is what your standard shield tank would be. However, it is the regenerative shield tanks that make the Borg and other shield draining little enemies quiver. And this ship will set up such a strong regenerative shield tank that I would argue it might be a better option to go with that than a standard shield tank on this ship. As far as the hybrid goes, combining hull and shield can work on this ship, but you'll be wanting to push regenerative in one area and endurance in the other. Then really working hard to make sure you're generating threat. Probably having to use fire at will, bio weaponry and bio chaining, and trying to hit enemies more because a lot of your normal ways of generating threat are going to be sacrificed. This results in me scoring the whole tanking side of this ship at only 2 out of 10. The shield tanking side of this ship I will score at 10 out of 10. Hybrid and the old regeneratives, well, I'm going to push them up there with the old shields. That's getting an 8 out of 10. Tanking does pretty well. Now, before we talk full science, let's talk support. Support DPS, this ship does excessively well. Easily flying around, easily controlling enemies, as most science ships would be, and still able to blanket fire, either assisting in taking down the enemy that is the biggest threat to any of the DPSs out there, who may be a bit glassy. Because whenever there's whenever the tank is absent, it comes down to the support DPSer to make sure that the other DPSs don't die. As far as the DPS support goes, well, you're making sure the DPSs are hitting harder, and once again, this ship is reasonably good at that. However, that will probably be one of the weaker spots for this ship. Not necessarily bad, like hull tanking or kinetic DPS, but it's not really getting far above 5 out of 10. As far as support tank goes, quite frankly, if you're going to go support tanking with this ship, you might as well go tanking anyway, purely because the way this ship is set up. There's no point in being a support to the tank and helping keep threat away from the DPSs. You may as well just focus in and be the tank itself and get that shield tanking down. However, if you do wish to run a support tank with this ship, it will be reasonably easy to do. Just bear in mind, do not press too hard on your own personal threat generation. You want to trigger enough threat to keep things in one area, but you don't want the threat on you. You want the threat on the actual tank. Finally, let's go to the actual science with this ship, and that is where this ship comes home. We've already said this ship is really good at direct energy builds. Well, Jusai, it's got the same strengths. Combining it in with its own natural science, I'm going to be honest with you, running like I have done, which is a simple beam fire at will forward bias build, it's not even 100% forward bias, this ship will hit the peak of its energy damage very quick, and unfortunately won't reach the peak of its DPS output because I haven't utilized the science aspects of this ship. I've held back there, and as a result, this ship doesn't reach its peak. No, you have to go further. Go towards that Jusai and let this ship really run home, and it does it bleedingly well. You'd probably be better off using cannons and scatter volley build versus my fire at will, just because it'll be much easier to generate the outgoing energy damage. But while I'm saying that, you've got a lot of science EPG running in there. Beams are going to be just as useful, especially if you broadside it with this ship. Not necessarily what this ship is great at, but something it will do well. This results in my Jusai score for this ship being 8 out of 10. But actual going in there with EPG, get your powerhouse and DPS out there and go for a side DPS build, and then we jump that up to 9.5 out of 10. This ship is exceptionally good. It recognizes that when you go for a full science build, your energy weapons might as well become null and void. You're going to be wanting to use kinetic torps. They're just going to be there as a extra damage after all. And you're going to want to push hard into your science. This ship does it really well thanks to its bonus power settings, especially that +5 to Ox, but I would have loved it if they just swapped the +10 to engines to the auxiliary and gave it +15 to auxiliary, but I understand why they've done what they've done based on the show itself. Hell, that's why I understand it being a temple ship, and that itself is bringing home the science capability. It being a Temporal Science Spearhead, this ship just runs circles around most other ships when it comes to science builds. The only other ships that will be performing as well as it, I would say, science-wise, are the other Temporal Science vessels. Coupling with the fact that this is a Spearhead, and with the fact that that turn rate, which I do still need to address, isn't accurate, well then, you've got an amazing ship. My overall scores here are easily speaking, 7 out of 10 for DPS and tactical. Well, sorry, 7 out of 10 for DPS. Hard to mark this one. 7 out of 10, no, sorry, 6 out of 10 for tank. This is purely because of the hole dragging it down. Science capabilities, I'm going to easily give it 9 out of 10. And quite frankly, guys, a little bit of bonus marks for this being one of the fastest ships you can get. It's nice to have a new Tour of the Galaxy ship. Now, one of the final things I really want to address on this ship is that turn rate. You guys saw that it was a base turn rate of 9. Well, quite frankly, guys, that's inaccurate. There's no way it's 9. Unless the numbers have been changed recently. If that base turn rate really is 9, this 9 is suddenly begotten a lot more maneuverable. Why am I saying this? Well, because I'm flying circles around enemies out there and it don't make sense. You'll see that when I take this ship into action and show you guys this ship physically fighting, but that's not yet. The biggest question I have to say though is, why? Why have they marked it as a turn rate of 9 when it clearly performs better? Okay, now let's see this ship really. Damn, she's pretty. Well, okay, whoopsie daisy. A little bit wrong there. Let's first go on to her trait. Hex grid shielding focusing, or hex grid shield focusing. Awesome! Taken directly out of the show, this good old bit of shielding. Redistributing shields will grant critical severity. Well, well, well. Manually redistributing your shields will grant plus 16.4% critical severity. Interesting. Severity based on forward shield capacity for 30 seconds. So, basically, when you go to redistribute, from what I've tested, this depends very, very much on, quite easily to put, what your forward shields are at the time of activation. This is probably a strength and a weakness to this ability. However, I don't think it's like... When I tested it, it seemed very odd how it was acting, because in some aspects it looked like it was maintaining the whole time. So once activated, say where my shields are at currently, once activated it triggered and it remained with that percentage the whole 30 seconds. But there was a couple of other runs I did where that's not how it worked. In fact, it worked very differently. It was changing depending on how badly my shield had gone down. So the quicker I saw my forward shield going down, the less critical severity I was getting. I was like, huh, so which one is it? Well, either way that it works, quite frankly, it's a fundamentally easy one to work with. And to be honest, even at its low end, it seems quite strong, because it does have a minimum that it will give you at least. The result being that, well, honestly speaking, I do like this trait. And it will work best with shield tanks who are consistently maintaining their shields, but I can see others finding this relatively useful to use. Just unfortunately, this isn't on the type of ship that players that might find this useful will have access to. The problem we fundamentally have right here, hello buddy, is, well, this is a trait that is more useful to budget players and people who are operating at a level similar to my own, rather than high-end game players that will be spending out the money to actually acquire this ship. Be it where if you do partake crazily in the gambling, or if you choose to, as some have, get it from the exchange. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. That puts a negative on it for me, but I don't want that to overshadow it too much, because I'm just glad to see shields getting some love. This results in me giving this trait a final score of 5 out of 10. Most of its demerits are coming from cost to acquire, location, ironically both those are actually connected, and the overall impact and usefulness of said trait. So please understand that this can be a good trait, but when used right, in the right, well, obviously when used right, it just has to be addressed correctly. And unfortunately, most of the time, once you've acquired this trait, if you are one of those players, this is probably only going to be useful to you if you are an advanced level player. Oh, elite! Or an elitist. Haha! So let's go on to something that's a bit more fun to talk about. The Console Universal Reformed Living Construct. Hello! The Reformed Living Construct will give you passive benefits of plus 10 to your shield power settings, plus 28 to your Starship control expertise, and in itself, well, it will make foes within 5 kilometers fight each other. It will take over up to 8 nearby foes, and for 30 seconds, 30.3 seconds apparently, confusing them, placating them, and forcing them to engage each other in combat. While they are confused and fighting each other, they will have a 227.2 bonus damage buff. Let me make this really clear. Until I got to that point, personally speaking, on this console is a load of trash. Okay? Now, the console does get some improvements and benefits when it comes to certain little extras. After all, if my following reads have been right, that Confuse and Placate is dependent on your control expertise and exotic power. In other words, this console gets its actual defining power from what this console should be equipped to: science vessels and EPG builds. So although this console is limited, and once again, it is exceptionally powerful in the right hands. There's just a decisive problem here. That is a massive amount of bonus damage, and with that alone, it makes the console worth using in comparison to other Confuse and Placate consoles that will make enemies fire at each other. That, yes, there has actually already been this type of console. Look up tier 3 Galaxy class. I think it's called the Venture class. Yeah, that one came with a console that did the same. It just didn't force the enemies to fight each other. But hey, if the enemies were nearby and got affected, they were going to fight each other. Because they couldn't find you. And therein lied the big issue. In PvP, the Galaxy Ventures version of this was quite strong, only because if you had multiple PvP opponents, they would be fighting each other, and, well, we as players, our ships deal a lot of damage, but NPC, enemy ships in the game, do not. And as such, using such an ability on them, well, it meant basically nothing. Yeah, they would stop firing at you, which is nice for your own survivability, but it really didn't help with outgoing damage in any way. This one will assist in outgoing damage, but once again we have the simultaneous problem of it. The damage is so low, if you are not someone who is utilizing control and ox power, so if you're not a science ship, you're never ever going to get a decent amount of bonus damage out of that to really see what you need. Even I'm not quite at the level where I would say it becomes worth using. So be warned, limited use once again. Console works well, but because of, once again, limited use and location, it's only getting 5 out of 10. Sorry console, I just have to drill it home on you. Now, what I can have a bit of fun with is talking about the new Protostar weaponry. Now, as you can see there, I have actually got the omnidirectional Protostar phaser beam. And that one has a lovely little own self benefit of +5 to weapons, except it's been changed. So much like the other, well, Protostar phaser beams, the Protostar Omni also now only does +5 for weapons, shield, engine, or auxiliary for 10 seconds and has a 25% chance of this proccing. When that was just weapon power, that made these weapons brilliant. It made an omnidirectional, sorry, a second omnidirectional, you could have that as part of a set that had its own little proc. That was great, absolutely great. We've got two set, let's see, I've got 2 set Omnis on right now. And yeah, it's equipped because it's another set Omni, and if I wanted to, I could be pushing this, but I'm not. I just wanted to see how it was going to perform on this ships and builds. Get ready for the proper run. That's going to change things. Like I said, this wasn't fully built out, deck to go. Oh dear, so where do you think this is about to go? Well, with this change in weapons and the new Protostar phaser beam now being an OR between weapons, shields, engine, and auxiliary, which means you have a 1 in 4 chance of getting the one you physically want, or maybe if you're using these weapons on a science ship, you have a 1 in 2 chance of getting it on the ones you want. I'm sorry, the weapons are trash. I liked them at first when they were boosting just the weapon power, but that's it. You wanted a 25% chance to guarantee 5 to weapon power, not a possible 5 to weapon power upon chance of it actually proccing and such. Bye-bye weapons, I'm not even scoring you. And yeah, I might be using this, but I won't be using this as a fundamental base piece for a lot of my builds. I've got better things I can use. Oh, so with that being said then, overall, let's quickly take a look how this ship can be customized, okay? So welcome to the customization of this starship, and suffice to say, it's quite funny. I like how they went straight in there, but Custodia as it stands, it's got its own little hole, but you can of course throw Defiant, Galaxy, Intrepid, NX, Sovereign. Huh? Yeah, I was hoping to see some others available to it, but Protostar's quite good. Protostar looks good. I love the fact that they've taken this animated hull and made it work. And if you really want to have a bit of fun, well, of course, throw on the little extras. You can see where some of the... Oh, I probably shouldn't have picked green. Let's pick blue so it stands out a bit more. There you go. There isn't really a colour that stands out well on this ship. That's annoying. outside of red. Purple. There you go. You can sort of see the purple back here. Okay. Swap that round to red quickly because well, at least the yellow is going to stand out like a sore thumb on this ship. See where all the little bit of red chimps are now. Looks quite good, doesn't it? I like the fact that the primary base color is where it is. The secondary color having such limited spots can be played with a little bit. Mostly through if you do something like, say, go Defiant. Hello, Vesta. Everybody loves the Vesta. I forgot this ship has so many damn pieces that change and augment to itself. This is half the issue. Because it's got loads of little flaps. Oh look, all pretty. So yeah, if you really want to have a bit of fun around with the ship, you can go for some quite aesthetically different looks. I personally am quite a fan of well, that one. Also to go along with it, wee, silver gold. But hey, that's just my own personal taste and choice. A bit of a disappointment is no Protostar bridge, and considering they had to model it, I think you can see what I mean. It's going to be an interesting ship for visual reviewing, isn't it? That was a bit of an annoyance. But oh well, let's see this ship in action, shall we? And actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to run an extra run.
Your will lies deep way under the surface, and like a fire needs coal in the furnace. This is your goal that makes it all worth it. This is your why that gives you your purpose. Let's go. Thoughts can keep you down, pushing deep until you drown, or they can keep you up strong, focused on the now. Glass half full, or has it been emptied out? Well, that's all up to you and your mind. Do you doubt anything, everything, not a thing? Make my thoughts work for me, manifest what I need, what I want, what I see. I could be anything, I attract all the things that I see. I believe I'll achieve as I breathe in and out again and again. I don't doubt, I sit and I plan, and I found out that I can execute if I'm driven, if I listen, if I learn all the wisdom. Read some books, something written, watch the best, teach a system I invest. Never hidden, I ain't scared, ain't no chicken, I take dares. I'll be winning, you get back what you're giving. Find the reason that you're living, what you're good at, all your gifts and what you love. Take a risk and find out what you've been missing now. Your will lies deep way under the surface, and like a fire needs coal in the furnace. This is your goal that makes it all worth it. This is your why that gives you your purpose. Your will lies deep way under the surface, and like a fire needs coal in the furnace. This is your goal that makes it all worth it. This is your why that gives you your purpose. Something, that's all you need. I wake up ready for the day because I believe in everything that I'm doing like it was meant to be. I get fixated and captivated on learning things. Don't hesitate to ask questions, the answer that I need. It's out there somewhere, I swear I can find the recipe. By testing, learning, and turning into a better me. Your will lies deep way under the surface, and like a fire needs coal in the furnace. This is your goal that makes it all worth it. This is your why that gives you your purpose. Your will lies deep way under the surface, and like a fire needs coal in the furnace. This is your goal that makes it all worth it. This is your why that gives you your purpose.
you're never gonna make it. You're not good enough, there's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're driven.
Make it. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Or will you fucking fight back?
You ain't never ever gonna break it. You can never beat them and they're better than you face it. Thinking that they're giving them, you're not thinking straight, kid. No, they don't give a damn, you got what I'm saying? I'm not fucking playing, I'll give it to you straight, man. There's too many others and you're not that great, man. Stop what you're saying, stop what you're making. Everybody here knows that you just faking. Nah, I don't wanna hear it anymore. I don't wanna hear it anymore. All these fucking thoughts, they are not what I need anymore. I'm about to shut the motherfucking door on all you poor ass haters with your heads in the clouds, talking out loud so proud. You better shut your goddamn mouth before I do more speak out. It's about to head south.
You're never gonna make it. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back.
Well now, I hope that was a sufficient demonstration, considering that was when I went and used the build I'm currently using, and, well, when I didn't have it set up properly. You know, that's not too bad for me. Bearing in mind that I'm only an advanced level player, running advanced, I don't feel like that was too bad for me, especially considering I'm still not optimizing this ship. Hell, what I went with there and build it, and I'm sure you saw how I was fighting with it. If I wanted to optimize this ship further, I would have been using things that would optimize flanking damage or increasing energy damage a bit more, and I still wasn't using them. I admit in my final one I took its console away because that's not a very good console for what I was doing. But the fundamental oversight is, no, it's not really an oversight. This ship is really good. And I can't praise it enough. I simply cannot praise this ship enough. So guys, honestly, if you are getting into science builds and you want a ship that is going to be amazingly good at science builds, but also very useful for you to earn EC, work on dilithium and stuff like that, and just help you get around really quickly while also being an effective powerhouse, this is a ship for you. You're not picking, just to be blunt with you, you are not going to want this ship for its console or its trait. It's simple as that. You may, if you are in the specific niche that desires it, and to be fair, this is a science ship, so if you desire this ship, you might be. If you heavily desire this ship for the science side of it, then yeah, you might be what the console and trait are for. Which, hey, praise home to you anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, even if you are not someone who standardly uses science builds, this is still a ship that you may enjoy and will find very useful to have in your little fleet. And hell, it's a little ship. It is a shame it costs so much to get it. It's a extreme negative that Cryptic has decided to put something that is targeted to children inside the gambling mechanic. But I am trying to ignore that aspect right now. I still do not agree with Cryptic on this one. But the fundamental facts aside, this is a well implemented ship, very true to its nature in the show, and honestly, I love it. I really do love it. I'm glad I've got my hands on this as well, because funny enough, I've just pulled up my flagship voting, and this is one of the options. I said if I got my hands on it, I would be willing to put this up as an option. That was before I got to fly it. Think about that with its stats. That was before I got to fly it. It'll be useful for people to have a video that would explain how the numbers work in all things, but I'm not really good at explaining numbers. Autistic, I can gull them in my head, I just can't get them out of my head. I can see how it works. I knew this ship was going to function well, and it straight up did. Guys, now all I want to hear is, what are your thoughts? Literally anything you want to comment on when regards to this ship, or even me, if you think I'm an idiot, tell me I'm an idiot. If you've appreciated and found it useful, then I'm glad. You don't have to tell me that part. I'm not that narcissistic. Tell me. What? Guys, thank you for watching. A simply huge thank you to the people credited on screen right now. You know what you've done. You know what you've done. I'm putting it that way. Guys, thank you. And until next time, stay safe. And ciao for now. Live long and prosper. And may warrior's fortune be in your favor. Come on, Protostar! Let's fly. It doesn't want to let me.